the Herd Line News.
So playing on the road in the second night of a back-to-back, the Lakers lost to a Suns team with the worst record in the NBA.
Oh, God.
And after that game, Luke Walton emphasized his team needs to create their own energy.
We need to be better. We need to be a lot better. I'm happy with the fight we showed in the fourth quarter, but that's where we're at in the season. That's the desperation that we need to start the game with. That shows me that the group cares and that they're still invested. And I'm confident. I believe in our group. We need to play a lot better, but I believe that we can get it done.
Can I make a prediction? This is just a crazy prediction.
Mm-hmm.
I do not have this multiple sourced. So this will be little J journalism. Okay, so this is not big J.
Okay.
So when I have double sources, you and I have been doing this long enough. When you have two sources, then it's big J journalism.
Yeah.
When you have one source, it's just a tiny J. It could grow into it big J, but right now it's just a little tiny J. Luke Walton fired. Ty Lue, the next coach of the LA Lakers.
Yeah.
Don't have it double sourced. Have it singularly sourced.
I wouldn't say I have it sourced exactly, but there's enough rumblings that I firmly believe that's going to happen.
So if you and I both have little J's, is it count as a big J?
Can we multiply J's into a big J? I don't think that, I wouldn't call it source. I just think that people have been talking about it, and it also just makes sense. Like, this is a point in LeBron's career where you have bringing in someone that maybe you wanted to work with, but you haven't worked with before, and learning how their system works, having them get acclimated to you and to the team. So the biggest step is getting acclimated to LeBron James, of course. So if you bring someone in who's already not only won a championship with him, but that LeBron respects and likes and can be told things from, that to me just makes the most sense.
By the way, somebody in my ear, I'm not much for math. I'm not real mathy, but they said with algebra, 2 little J's don't equal a big J. So it doesn't, it's still a little J.
Yeah, I'm not a math person either.
We're not
But
mathy.
in TV journalism math, I think we just made it a big J.
Okay.
So Kyrie Irving seems really fed up with all the media attention he and his team has been getting this season, and he had this to say as he entered TD Garden yesterday before the Celtics game against the Rockets.
I'm not going to miss any of I'm not going to miss any of
Oh, boy.
So he's kind of off the extra attention this year.
By the way, when he goes to New York, right, he does get cameras will follow him there, too.
It would be worse in New York.
Of course.
For sure. That was their 5th loss in 6 games last night, their loss against Houston, and they are the 5th seed in the Eastern Conference. I really don't know what's happening with the Celtics and Kyrie. It feels like there's something else kind of brewing there because they have so much talent that it seems like they should be able to figure this out. And Kyrie's a winner. And he's a clutch player, and he knows what it takes to get to a championship and persevere to reach that championship.
Let me throw this out there. Antonio Brown and Kyrie. From the outside, it looks like I got everything I want. But there's something, probably a relationship in both organizations that went wrong. Because with AB, you go, Big Ben, good receiver on the other side, hard to double. You win a bunch of games, and then Kyrie, you're like, good coach, emerging stars, but you're still the guy. You handle the ball. So with Kyrie and AB, it looks from the outside they're incredibly needy. It probably in both cases there is a relationship in the building that just doesn't sit right with them.
Well, generally it comes down to relationships at the end of the day. If you look at the dynasties and organizations that have been in place that look like they would be winning situations, and they don't, it usually comes down to a relationship, like with the Steelers. Speaking of the Steelers, finally, since requesting a trade from Pittsburgh, Antonio Brown has been really trying to personify the know your worth thing, and he took it a step further in an interview with ESPN where he claimed to play the sport of football out of love and not necessity.
I don't even have to play football if I don't want, bro. I don't even need the game. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to prove nothing to anyone. If they want to play, they're going to play by my rules. If not, I don't need to play. Obviously, I want the game, but I don't need the game. It's a different.
I don't think that's great to say.
So there's a million different angles you can take on what Antonio Brown is doing right now and that interview. And obviously if you watch the shop, he's talking a lot about how, he wants to own his own narrative. And when you start to own your own narrative, people push back and attack your character. And there's a lot of different things. And depending on what you're a fan of, if you're a fan of Antonio Brown, you're going to be on his side. If you're a fan of the Steelers, you're obviously going to be against him. He could just be trying to kill his trade value so that they cut him and he can go where he wants. Not the craziest theory of all time. But to me, what's happening with Antonio Brown is really just the new wave. I think players they're kind of over being controlled by organizations. And even though football is a team game and there's still very much the mentality of you need to fall in line and you need to be part of an organization and not an individual. I think social media, I think the ability for players to make so much money outside of the sport and players being more aware of managing their money while they are playing as opposed to blowing it and being broke at the end of their career. Players are really becoming more of entrepreneurs, which is what he talked about. I really think that that's we're going to see more of this.
Oh, I think so too.
Than the latter as we move forward. So if it makes you uncomfortable, you should get used to it because players they're not of this humble, like I'm just happy to be here mentality anymore. And I really don't feel like they should. They have more value to organizations.
Well, but when you say they have more value, nobody's underpaying them. I mean, they're... No.
I'm not saying that he's underpaid, and I'm not saying that he's not going to go on to a great career moving forward. Like all this talk about, like teams are afraid of him. Antonio Brown is going to be on a team next year. Don't fool yourself. That's happening.
But it'll probably be a lousy team.
It may very well be, and maybe some things will happen, and he will end up with another great quarterback, or maybe he won't, and who knows how this will sort out. But from the way that he's talking, he doesn't need the game in that he may be motivated by other things, and that's just the way it is now.
Yeah.
And you really get to see people's motivation.
I still think the majority of athletes want to win. I think Giannis wants to win. I think there's I think 90% of athletes, they make their money. They don't, like LeBron's political. I think most players aren't. LeBron's mobile. I think Damian Lillard, Paul George chose Oklahoma City. I do think there are certain players, just like in our business, there are certain people that are outspoken. I want to control this.
But everyone's not motivated by the same thing, and that's okay. And I really feel like that is what Antonio Brown is saying, is I don't have to fall in line in order for me to be successful for myself. Like what I determine as success doesn't have to be what you think is success.
Yeah.
And that should be okay.
Joy with the news.
Well, that's the news.
And thanks for stopping by.
The Herd Line News.
Next 20 games, I think the Lakers are out of the playoffs. 4.5 back. Teams in front of them, I think, now are better and certainly more unified. With that, we go to New York City. First things first, you hear him on our show all the time, Chris Broussard via the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. Chris, I said this, LeBron's still a great player. But when you're on the stage and people are looking up at you, be it the Pope in St. Peter's Square, be it Tony Robbins, be it TED Talks, when you're on the stage and people are looking up at you, you're a leader. But the really engaging moment is when you step off the stage as a politician and you meet people eye to eye, in a selfie, in a high five, and a fist bump. LeBron's been on the stage for 12 years, and most of the time he has connected very well with teammates. J.R. Smith's not a great player. He reached down. James Jones, one of his best buddies. I think, Chris, LeBron's had a bad year in leadership, where he's done too many star-driven projects. He's never come off the stage and connected with Luke, connected with some of the young players. That's just my takeaway. He's still a great player, great guy, but I don't think it's been a great LeBron leadership year. How's that land for you?
Well, Colin, I think the main difference between this year with LeBron and the previous 4, at least, has just been the winning. There's different ways to lead a team. We can look at all of the guys, or a lot of them that we consider great leaders in the past, and the reason their leadership was good was because they won. Michael Jordan, we know he punched out Steve Kerr. We know he had issues with some teammates here and there. He told his teammates, don't pass the ball to Bill Cartwright. And Cartwright said, I'll break your legs if you ever say that again. Kobe Bryant, I came on your couch and said, Kobe was a good leader. Why? He won 5 rings. Isaiah Thomas he punched out Bill Laimbeer. Isaiah Thomas ran Adrian Dantley, a great player, out of town in Detroit and got his buddy Mark Aguirre there. LeBron had his drama in the past 4 years. I mean, yeah, there's some different things now, but let's not forget the cryptic tweets.
Yeah.
Let's not or Instagram, whatever it was. Let's not forget the issues with Kevin Love. Are you in, buying out, whatever it was he said. Kyrie Irving, David Blatt. I mean, LeBron's had this type of drama the past 4 years. The difference was they won. They got to the Eastern Conference, or they got to the finals, and they won one championship. So we looked at it as great leadership. Now he's doing similar things, some a little different, but similar things, and they're not going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
So we're looking at it as, whoa. Michael Jordan's last season in Washington. Colin, I was there. I covered a lot of it for the New York Times. Those players who grew up idolizing MJ, they couldn't stand him by the time it was over. Why? He was the same MJ as he was in Chicago. The one difference was in Chicago, he's leading you to championships. In Washington, he wasn't quite good enough anymore to even get you in the playoffs.
Good stuff. Chris Broussard joining us. You and I had this discussion a couple weeks ago, is that outside of Tom Brady, it all works the same way for even superstars. There's a domino effect. They have a big injury. They don't make the playoffs. Suddenly, they're off the front page. They're on page 3 of the sports section. So LeBron now, first major injury, not going to make the playoffs. Chris, if they don't land AD, is he on page 2 of the sports section?
Yes. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's AD or bust for the Lakers. And even if they get AD, look, I'm not ever going to write LeBron James off right now as a guy that won't win another championship. But if you put a gun to my head, AD or not, and said, is LeBron James going to win another championship? Your life depends on it. I would say no, he's not. Now, that said, let me go here. I actually think LeBron could have a very successful run here with the Lakers. You see, he's still a great player, as you said. But this year, at least, he isn't able to dominate the game like he used to. Okay, his numbers are still what they always are. But he's not dominating the game, controlling the actual game like he has in the past. I think LeBron could use that for a good thing, because one of the strengths of his game and weaknesses of his game throughout his career has been that he does everything. I had a guy who won championships a few years ago tell me LeBron would win more rings if he just did one thing. Either be Magic Johnson at point guard and average 22 points and 12 assists, or be a small forward, a real small forward, and lead the league in scoring and get 9 or 10 rebounds. Because he does everything that makes it hard for players to play around him.
Right.
Not role players. Role players can't do much. So they need you to create everything for them and give them the ball and they can shoot it.
Yeah.
But other talented players, it's harder. So as he declines a little bit, why not go to a straight point guard, period, or go to a straight small forward, period, and then it'll be easier for other players with talent to play around you, and maybe you could win more.
Yeah, by the way, this is a great point. As your skills decline, you can't do as many things well, then just zone in on the one thing you do well. Chris Broussard, very good point. Finally, Kyrie Irving is a great player. Okay, but something's not working, Chris, because Boston is worse with him on the floor. I just told Joy, when you get an Antonio Brown or a Kyrie, we know they're great. Generally, if they're struggling with what appears to be a great situation, there's a relationship issue in the building. We know Antonio Brown's was Big Ben. What is going on with Kyrie in that building, Chris? What do your sources say? Because he is an unhappy dude right now.
Yeah, he is. I have not been told of a poor relationship in the building. I've actually been told that off the court, his relationships with Jason Tatum, Terry Rozier are fine. I'm not saying they're bosom buddies, but they're fine. It's more the on-the-court chemistry. Remember last year in the playoffs, we talked about it, Colin. The team went from being Kyrie's to Brad Stevens' team. He was the superstar. Remember, Kyrie wasn't even there for, what was it, a Game 7 in the playoffs? It wasn't a good look. So you wonder, did that bother Kyrie? The fact, and we know that's been a source of the problems in Boston, is that the young guys feel like they went far without him, and do they really need him? And he sensed that because he said it repeatedly in the public. So that is bothering him right there. But I really think, too, Colin, that Kyrie has let the media criticism really deflate him.
Yeah.
If you look at before the All-Star game, there was a 6 or 7 game stretch where he averaged 30 points, 10 assists, led them to a 6-1 record, and was looking fantastic. Like, he is taking over the team, and they're winning. And then at the All-Star break, he's criticized because he and KD are in the hallway talking.
Yeah.
And he's, people make a big deal out of him staying on the court for KD's, MVP award session after the All-Star game. And he talked about how he hated that. And notice from that point on, his answers to the media have been small, clipped, basically no comments. You saw the clip you showed earlier, him walking in the arena saying, I won't miss this stuff when I'm done playing. So I think he's let this media criticism deflate him. He's got rabbit ears, kind of like Kevin Durant. And you wonder, both of those guys are talking about going to New York. It's worse in New York. So that's going to be interesting to see if that impacts their decision.
Chris Broussard, good seeing you, bud. Nice work today. Thanks.
All right, my man.
Coming up next, we usually get it right. Usually. The great players are treated like great players. The average players are treated like average players. And the below average players we don't talk about. There is one exception in American pro sports. We've whiffed. You've whiffed. We've all whiffed, mostly. That's coming up. Plus, top of the hour, where Colin was right, where Colin was wrong on a Monday. Listen, if you haven't tried Butcher Box yet, what are you waiting for? Butcher Box brings you meat the way it's meant to be. Not only delicious, but organic. They work closely with the best farms and companies committed to raising animals humanely. Grass-fed beef, free-range organic chicken, wild-caught sockeye salmon from Bristol Bay, Alaska. Over 20 different cuts of meat. And it comes at an affordable price. The shipping is free with Butcher Box. So you can get a month's worth.